Hey guys, welcome to the Gorilla Mafia podcast. My name is Brian Penamani, and today I'm joined by my good friend Troy Wilson, who I had the pleasure of playing college football with at Pittsburg State. Troy had a wonderful career, and one of the reasons we're talking today is because last week was a Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the 49ers, and Troy happened to play on the 94 Super Bowl champion team of the 49ers, and I think that's kind of a bittersweet moment for him. I kind of wanted to visit with him a little bit today about his experience in college and professionals, and he had a stellar career between winning a national championship at Pittsburg State, winning a Super Bowl with the 49ers in 94, and then also played a little bit of arena football for the Tampa Storm and won a Arena Bowl championship. So there's not too many professional athletes or athletes in general who have won a college national championship, a professional championship, and then an Arena Bowl championship. I think that's wonderful. So Troy, welcome to the Gorilla Mafia podcast. Thanks for coming on today. Tell me, how bittersweet was it for you last week to watch those Chiefs play the 49ers in the Super Bowl?
Hey, what's up, Peno?
Good to see you.
You know, I wanted to see definitely a great game, and I was obviously cheering for San Francisco. But, it was one of those things where it went kind of back and forth as far as who had the momentum. And then ultimately, the Chiefs were able to pull it out, unfortunately.
It was a good game, and I can honestly say that first half with the 49ers, they seemed to dominate, in my opinion. It was a great first half for them.
They did. And, here's the other thing that people don't really realize is I think it may have been the first possession where there was a fumble by McCaffrey. And so, at that point, you could have said, oh, shoot, putting the Chiefs in a much better position to score and start the game off. But,
Absolutely.
the next series, they handed the ball right back to them, and San Francisco went to work, and they did a lot of running in that first half. They didn't do so much the third half, from what I'm trying to recall, which I think was frustrating for San Fran fans. But in the fourth quarter, they did, and they were successful doing that. And then it came down to the overtime, which I actually like the new rules, by the way, where both teams get the opportunity to score.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good too. I found it kind of comical that some of them were complaining they didn't understand the rules, and it's like, I thought the official gave them the rules right there at the coin toss, so I thought it was pretty clear. I think I wasn't the only one shocked by them taking that ball first after winning the coin toss. I thought that was a little strange, but I've screwed up many coin tosses in my day back in college as well, so I can understand they can do that.
Hey, call tails all the time.
I know it was kind of bittersweet for the 49ers to be in that, but you also had a 49ers reunion in the fall where you and another one of our teammates, Phil McCoy, who the two of you are probably arguably the best defensive ends ever to play at Pittsburg State. I know you guys went out to San Francisco. How was that reunion for you guys out there? Were there a lot of guys that came back?
There were. It was awesome because, Big Phil, another friend of ours that lives up here, Michael Carter, we headed out to the Bay Area, in San Jose, and I still have family out there. So it was a great reunion for me, and got to see, my cousins and all my uncles that live out there. And so we just had a great time. A lot of guys showed up there. The thing about, that's interesting about that environment is, for me, I'm not a true sports fan, and growing up, I think I had individual players that I liked and followed, and they were on different teams. So It wasn't like I was always a Chiefs fan or a Cowboys fan or a Niners fan. Just different players inspired me, and I just like how they played. So from that end, um, I just lost what I was going to say, Pino.
Absolutely awesome. After that football game on Sunday, it was kind of funny because you hear, some of the critics and some of the conspiracy theorists say that, football's rigged, the Super Bowl is rigged, the Chiefs were always going to win. How difficult would it be to rig a professional football game in today's time with, as many players are out there, their officials? I mean, it's kind of comical to hear people, give that argument when that would be so difficult. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, give me your take on that.
No, absolutely, I agree. If you think about, uh, like you said, collaborating with the officials, even with the technology we have, with microphones and earbuds and that type of thing. You'd have to coordinate with the DB and the receiver and the quarterback all at the same time to tell which yard
Yeah.
line you're going to throw the pass to, and it just doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
I don't believe in any of that.
Yeah. I kind of find it comical to think that, especially from, a former player standpoint, you're just out there to compete, and everybody's a competitor. And the one thing that they want to do when they're on the field is win, and they
Yeah.
spend a lot of time doing that. So, when you're a competitor, when you're an athlete, when you're playing, I mean, if you look back on your, playing football in college and at the professional level, what would you say was one skill or habit that had the most impact on your success as an athlete throughout your whole career?
I just think that I always try to work hard and improve myself on a daily basis. And um, the other thing about the Pinto is if you look back, especially yourself as a physical therapist now, and then my experiences playing, if we knew now or knew then what we know now, how
Yeah.
much different things can be. And but we got after it pretty tough
Yeah.
down in Pitt, and everyone lifted to maximize their strength and their abilities, and everyone played hard. And the other thing, like we talked about before, is that we all just gelled as a team,
Yeah.
um, on and off the field, and we thought, that was one of the major steps for us to be successful and going to the national championship.
Yep. I totally agree. I think the closeness of almost being like a family. We had a lot of close relationships on our collegiate team, and that's, we won a national championship, and most of us are still pretty close today. We keep in touch where there's a lot of the guys that are still in contact on a regular basis. How would you compare a national championship college team like our Pitt State Gorillas back in 91 with the type of relationships that your 94 Super Bowl team had and your 2003 Arena Bowl team had? Are there similarities in that cohesive nature of all the athletes and the coaches? I mean, because you've got to be a team. You can't really have a lot of individuals and win
Yeah,
championships. What would you
yeah.
say is similar with all those teams?
Well, like you just mentioned, you've got to bring it all together and be, everyone be competitive and have their sights and goals on the same, vision that you have as a team. And I'm not a very good storyteller, but this will be the one thing that I'll say is as far as um, the things I've learned and the experience I had playing, and that is at Pitt, at San Fran, at Tampa Bay, there were things in games you could put your finger on and point to and say this was the changing point for our team. And the two that I can really think of are with the Pitt team and San Fran team when 2-3 games into the season we thought we didn't have to compete as hard to win, and we ended up getting our butts kicked.
Yeah.
And that kind of resonated with the whole team, and then captains come together and um, everyone has a discussion about this isn't going to happen again. We're going to make sure that we're prepared and ready to play, and realize that as one of the bigger I don't know, competitive teams, everybody's gunning for you and shooting for you. So, you can't take any competition, your enemies lightly, because they'll take advantage of anything you give them.
Oh, absolutely. And especially at a professional level. I mean, it doesn't matter which team on a professional level, anybody can beat you on any given day because there's just so much talent on that team. And I know exactly what you're talking about with our 91 team because we struggled that after that second game of the season. Then we had a hiccup, tied Rolla, and then we had to really have a lot of gut checks. And, we think about that a lot, but it made us stronger and better as a team for the remainder of the season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I just think that's the commonality has to just be the word team, is gelling as a team. And that's no different than in your work environment or in a sports team. If you're not gelling as a team, you're not doing, and you're not doing well, and you're not going to have the success that needs to take place because too many people are fighting that individuality, and a team gets more stuff done than an individual. And I think those are the takeaways that I have, especially from my college career, and then trying to bring that into the professional organization as well, making sure our team works together, and the ones that don't work together, we've got to try to figure out either how to bring them on board to be part of that team or find another team member to replace them.
Yeah. No, and if you look at the team collectively, ultimately it comes down to trust as well, because of the the cohesiveness, and the camaraderie of you and your teammates. You're depending and trusting them to fulfill the duties of their position, so that collectively you are competing at the highest level collectively, team wise, that you can, so that you can put yourself in a position to be able to win.
Absolutely. I think that's well said. I mean, and I'm sure some of those relationships that you've had in every one of those teams, wouldn't you agree? You still have relationships with a lot of people from Pitt State. I'm sure you have some relationships with your 49ers fellow teammates, and probably even some of your Tampa teammates. And those relationships take work, to stay in touch. I mean, I know you still like coming back to watch Pitt State football games, and even come back to watch some of our former college teammates' kids compete here. I know Duke Palmer's son, Derek, runs tracks and a high jumper here, and you've come back multiple times to support him and his son, with track meets. And I think that's awesome. And those are the types of relationships that are built from strong teams. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that we can look at over 30 years have gone by since we were in college, um, and we have the opportunity to keep developing those types of relationships, is amazing. And I think all of us need to be grateful and thankful that we're able to do that. We have a handful of guys, probably 6 or 7 guys here in Kansas City, that we try to get together and do something, go have dinner, that type of thing, which we're definitely overdue to have another one. But in doing that, it does keep the relationships together. And, the biggest thing is we know that we're all there for each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I told my daughter that when she was in college, she played basketball, Missouri State. And that was one thing that I wanted her to be able to understand is that, especially as a captain, as someone your teammates have said, okay, you know you're a good leader. You get us motivated.
I totally agree with that. I mean, because you've those relationships, you're as a parent and being there with multiple championship teams like you've played on, you've seen the intricacies of those relationships and the success that it leads to on the field or on the court. And I think that's special to share that because you've been through it a lot at multiple levels. And that's what nothing is easy anymore. And it does take a lot of practice. So, and one of the things that I heard a long time ago that's kind of resonated with me, and an amateur, they do things until they get it right, but a professional does something until they can't get it wrong. And that's something that, when I look at all these professional athletes, and it doesn't matter what sport you're in, those guys can do things that are so above and beyond what, an amateur athlete can do because they've practiced it so much that they just can't get it wrong,
Right.
and, you know, when we live in a download society where we're downloading something in 60 seconds, some of these younger athletes, they just think if they, do a couple shots a day, go out and run some routes or do shoot some free throws, that those are enough. But to really take it to the next level and win championships, you've got to spend hours and hours of repetition. And I know how, when we were playing at Pitt, we were lucky to have a couple different coaches, with Coach Fran for a couple of years and then Coach Broyles, two different coaching styles. But I remember, Fran used to start practice over a bunch of times and run us into the ground, and that was hard for people to handle. But looking back on those, well, we needed the extra reps, and if we weren't doing it right, I'm sure he was going to find a way to make us do it right, whether we liked it or not, and whether we,
Right.
said bad things about him at the end of the day or not is one thing. But the one commonality was we won games with both those coaches, and that was kind of fun. So
Yeah.
just one of those things there. So, if you have to look back and give one piece of advice about life to everybody that would give them some form of motivation or anything, what would you say would be one piece of advice you could give to everybody?
Just work hard. Um, like you just said it yourself, basically. If you can do a couple jump ropes and you think you're in shape and you call it you quits for the day, then that'll be the results of that effort will show, tremendously based on someone who's going to go out and actually, commit
Put
to
in the
to
work.
to their craft. Yeah. Um, and that's one of the biggest things that I learned. Um, when I was in San Francisco. First of all, let me also say that um, I was very blessed in terms of my career and for first off being drafted. But the biggest part of that is I was able to go to a city where, as I mentioned, I had family members there.
Yeah.
Um, so for me to help to make that transition from Pitt, out to San Jose, uh, was just extremely important. And of course, my family loved the fact that I was with the Niners,
Sure,
and
sure.
because they've been Niners fans for forever. So, um,
Made that transition a lot easier for you, didn't it, to move out there, especially from the Midwest and going to a big city where you knew, well, you did know people, but you normally wouldn't have.
yeah, that's right. Um, but one of the things I did learn, especially from, I'm not going to mention names, just uh, you know, the personnel on the 49ers team, multiple people, but like I said, mentioned earlier, was not only working hard, but work ethic, meaning you put in your time, um, for your technique and those types of things during practice. You don't hem haw through practice and I can't, say I can't wait for the game, and then you get to the game, and then you're constantly having to think about what it is you're supposed to be doing. Whereas if you would have practiced your technique, um, and worked through, all the different scenarios that you would face during the game, then that, game time, you're ready to go, and you just play,
Yeah.
you
It
react.
becomes automatic.
Right, right. So I think those are big keys, and um, as far as being successful, and one of the things I have heard, um, which it, people are going to have opinions of you, whether you're good, bad, ugly, handsome, blah blah blah. Uh, but Dion, I've heard him say to his kids, you know, practice with a purpose. And I just thought that's just
That's
awesome because that's, like I've mentioned, that's the mindset that you have to have. Um, we were out there 3 days or 3 times a day in Pitt. Well, except for the big guys,
yeah.
uh, they got the afternoon off, but we were out there 3 times a day, 3 a days,
Yep.
and so we're all looking at each other, and everyone's having to fight through that. And again, that's where you build that camaraderie and the
Yeah.
focus. That everybody's in it to win it, and um, you know we got to get it done. So
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely agree. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself because I totally agree. You've got to do things with a purpose in life, and who cares as long as you're giving it your best effort, you're going to get a good result from that. And I think that's kind of the same thing that Jim and I kind of left it on is, keep moving forward. And that kind of continues to, be almost the thought process and the way we're going with this podcast is keep moving forward, do things with a purpose, make where you are a better place, make your job a better place, make your family a better family, and just do everything with a purpose and don't quit. Wouldn't you agree with that?
yeah, that very well said. One of the things that I do, and I pulled from the first podcast as well, was um, look for people that are inspirational as well to you. And, the fact that you guys have that mental approach, you've been added to my list of people that, I say, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this time to make sure I'm, being active for the moment and utilizing my time. And those are things that I've had to, um, to deal with. Uh, and I've been put in situations where it's like I tell my wife, everything I do is there's a reason behind it,
Yeah.
and it's I try to make it uh, some type of workout or exercise, um, whether it's putting my coffee cup over so I can get sugar. Well, that's a good delt workout if you do it right. I can wear your butt out with some delt exercises just by doing little stupid things. So that's the way I try to approach things consciously, because anybody can go sit down and, like you said, get involved with the technology that's out these days, and lose track of time, and 2 hours have gone by, and those 2 hours you don't get back. And the other piece of advice, that I would just want to say and leave with people is that with the communication that we have and that you have with your families, life is just really crazy, and we're all blessed and here for a reason, and we have to be conscious that we don't know what's going to happen for tomorrow, and we need to live our lives, and take advantage of the time we have, and just be grateful and thankful. So there's always somebody that's got it worse than you. That's one of the things I've always. So I don't know who told me that, but it's definitely true. And again, I have a couple elderly people in my neighborhood that there's a senior living community, and I leave, down my street, and ladies are on walkers or canes, or have some type of physical ailment, but they're still walking and exercising. And those are people that I find definitely inspirational too. And I've also got to throw my family into the mix with that. Thankfully, they've got the workout bug, and realize that as far as your overall health, it's good to to have that outlet as well, because it also helps with your mental state of mind, and keeps you in a good place, and they try to eat well, and I do that as well. I just like a lot of steak and sugar cookies and that type of thing. But I, you know, um,
I
it's
love
just,
it.
it's just a great position to be in, and I'm just thankful.
I
You know,
think we all need to be grateful. We need to be grateful for our families. We need to be grateful for our friendship. And I really thank you, Troy, for coming on here today and visiting with me on the Gorilla Mafia podcast. And I think that's just kind of a great way to end this one, is be grateful and keep moving forward, like Jim said last week. And make sure, if you haven't reached out to some of your friends for a while, pick up the phone, shoot them a text, give them a call,
yeah,
but keep in touch and see how they're doing. And Troy,
yeah.
thanks so much for being on
Pino,
the second episode of the Mafia podcast.
Pino, let me say one other
Yeah.
thing about that. You know, the keeping in touch part is just for our community and our relationships. But the other thing that I think people want to keep in mind is, you know, the mental health aspect of of our friends and family, and that type of thing. Because if I haven't heard from you in 2 months, then it's probably a good idea if I pick up the phone, call, and do a wellness check on you,
Yeah.
and just see how you're doing, that type of thing. That's one thing that I wish I would have followed up more, um, through the years, in terms of keeping in touch with everyone. But um, I think hopefully what we're speaking about today will touch people's hearts, and um, they'll keep that in mind, and do that moving forward. And
Oh, I agree. I know
yeah,
one of our former teammates, Chris Hanna, is wonderful at doing that, and he's been an anchor for a lot of people, and there's a lot of other people that do it as well. But I think we all just need to reach out more, just say, hey, how's everybody doing? And if we can get together every once in a while, that's even a better thing. If we can, meet up somewhere and do that. But
yeah,
with the technology, there's no reason why we can't reach out and touch each other and talk to each other
yeah,
on a regular
yeah.
basis.
Hannah's big on that, and we, the the alumni that he organizes when we go back to the pit is just really amazing and good. But here's the other thing too. Hannah can't sit down and physically call um, every single person
Right.
that that we played with, and that's kind of how I feel. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but
Well,
you
I'm
know,
hoping that with this podcast, we can get more guys on. We can share this with them and they can communicate with us and we can reach out and we can build a bigger network
yeah,
and continue to grow this network and just make sure we do those wellness checks on everybody. We make sure that if anybody needs anything, because, we've lost a few players,
yeah,
that we've played with and that saddens me because a couple of them probably went through some things that they could have used some of us to kind of help them with.
I
And I
agree.
think that we do need to do those wellness checks and reach out and get a stronger organization together. And I don't think it's just for our team, but I think it's people in general we need to do that with family members,
Yeah,
friends, colleagues. If somebody's going through something, we need to be there for them instead of isolate ourselves and be in our own little pod of our social media things, which social media has some good things, but I think probably there's more negative things that happen on social media than good things. And we need to use that for the betterment of ourselves and our friends so that we can not only keep in touch, but continue to make sure everybody's doing well.
right. No, hit the nail on the head, buddy.
Well,
We'll keep on moving.
that's
That's
right, baby. Once a gorilla, always a gorilla,
that's
right?
right. Once a gorilla, always a gorilla. So
Well, Troy, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I've enjoyed visiting with you. I know we text and we talk fairly frequently, and we'll keep doing it more. But it meant a lot for me to have you on here today, and I thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to sit around and ramble with me a little bit on this Gorilla Mafia podcast. So
no problem. No, I
thank you
appreciate.
so much, buddy.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
appreciate the
stop
invite.
recording here right now, but we'll stay on for a minute, and I'll visit with you after the recording stops.
All right. Thanks, Pam. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.